Hello.
Hi, hello, hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm
I'm
well. Yes, I'm good. What is it? Wednesday.
very
Whoa,
prepared. I am very prepared.
that is absolutely amazing. You are a Maggie super fan.
I am a Maggie super fan.
And it has been such an honor to share in that this week. How exciting. How
No,
exciting.
I know. I feel like I'm carrying a small child with me.
A large child, it looks like.
Actually, yeah, quite a large child. I'm going to put them down.
So that's absolutely amazing. What do you want to tell people about Maggie? Where would you like to start?
Oh,
Yeah.
God. Maggie is one of my favourite authors. She wrote my favourite series of all time, The Beaufort Poker Club. She has written The Beaufort Poker Club as a series, Falls Creek series, the Romantic series, the Griffiths Brothers series, and an array of standalones as well. And she's just the most incredible human being. She's so sweet, so kind, the loveliest little Southern American human being. And yeah, she's just a ray of sunshine, and I'm so excited to talk to her.
That's so amazing. And again, we're so lucky and honored because she's joining us from across the pond,
Across the pond.
yeah, the Atlantic in the States. Do you know whereabouts in the States she is?
Oh God, she can tell us in a minute, but it's either North or South Carolina.
That's right, yeah. So this is pretty special. And I think this is our third time doing this. Is that right?
Yes,
Speaking to people
third
in the
time.
States. Yeah, yeah. So this is pretty special, really,
It
really
is.
amazing. And we're so chuffed she's joining us. Is she with us?
I
Is she
think he
ready?
is with us.
Hello,
Hello.
Maggie. Hi,
Hello.
welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you all?
We're
I'm
very,
good.
yeah,
I'm
we're
very
very well.
excited.
We're very
Good.
excited to be speaking with you, Maggie. Thank you for joining us.
Likewise, I love the Austin Hale shirt.
Got to rep my man.
Yes.
So, if we just jump straight in, for anyone watching who might not have read one of your books yet, how would you describe your books or your writing style to new readers?
I like to call my books raw, relatable romance. So I write small towns, I write really swoony heroes, I write badass heroines. You are going to fall in love with a whole cast of characters who feel like they are your best friends. Um, we're going to touch on some hard things that are going to make you feel seen, maybe open some wounds, but we're going to explore them in a really safe, loving way. And you're going to get that happily ever after, no matter what.
That's such a perfect summary. It really is. I'm in the middle. No, I'm four-fifths into Pretty Things on Shelves, and you've really summarized it all. I felt so seen in so many ways, but also like pushed somewhere else, beyond my experience. And I'm so grateful to Sam for introducing me to your books. But Sam is an absolute Uber fan, and rightly
Since the
so.
beginning. Since the beginning.
Since the beginning. And maybe that's something we can kind of talk about. Like, where did it begin? And how did you get into writing so many books and becoming so prolific?
For me, I've always liked writing. I was always writing, little short stories and things like that. And then, like a lot of people, where you have those creative outlets as you get into college and adulthood, it kind of goes away because you have to get a real job. Um, and so it did. And I was a pastry chef for a long time and I absolutely loved it. I became a mother. And in the early season of motherhood, I was going through really horrible postpartum depression.
Mm.
And I went back to writing as an outlet. I was writing fan fiction just because it was something just for me and it was fun and it was escapism. And I could pick up these characters and use them like dolls and, just kind of move them around. And I just found myself again through that. And so I kind of got in the middle of my fan fiction journey, and I was like, well, I'm writing all these new characters that aren't part of the canon, and people really seem to like them. Maybe I could write a book. And so I gave it a shot and never looked back. And now here we are, 20 something books later.
Mm.
I think
That,
that's something so special about your writing because you say that writing helped you feel seen and helped you find yourself. And I know from reading your books, especially What Heals Us, especially the Both at Poker Club, they made me feel seen. They made me find myself again. And I think that's so special about writing in general, but especially about your writing. They're so found family, so you're part of them. You feel like you're the honorary member of the poker club. And yeah, I think that's what's so special about your writing, especially since you say that helped you find yourself.
Thank you. That's my goal is I want, specifically with the poker club, I was so inspired by sitcoms and like these friend groups, like you see when you watch Friends or New Girl or Cheers or something like that, where it just seems like, oh, I want a friend group like that, where, they just get together and hang out and they're there through every season of life. And so writing that was so much fun for me. And when it came to an end, I was so devastated and heartbroken because I felt like I was losing my friends. I've spent all these months writing their stories, and it felt so real for me. And so to hear that readers have connected with it in the same way that I did is just so special to me.
yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it? Like that magic that happens, once you've kind of let it out into the world and what it then starts to mean for other people. And it sounds from what Sam said, and certainly from my experience, that character is so inherent and important in your process and in your work. Is that where you start, or do you start with a premise or a relationship or an issue you want to explore or a place? Like, what's your process? Where do you start?
I think it's a little bit different for each book. Sometimes I go into it where I'm like, oh, I have never written a fake engagement before, so I want to write that. Um, and I'll have a trope or just a little thread where I'm like, oh, let's build something around this. And then sometimes it's, you mentioned reading Pretty Things on Shelves. We have these two characters who have so much history and they have this really unique upbringing. Um, it really does start with the characters for them. And so I think for each book, it's kind of a different process, but um, it's really fun to kind of find ways that make every book unique, but it, gives them the same feel throughout.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pretty Things on Shelves, you wrote that with your husband, Mr. Max. Would you consider doing that again? Because I absolutely loved that book.
We always joke that we will never do that again. It was the hardest thing we've ever done. And he's a fantastic writer. He's the first person I go to whenever I'm stuck and I need to talk out a plot. Um, but writing with somebody else was so difficult. It was so much harder than I thought it would be. Um, and so, as much as we both love Pretty Things and how that book turned out, I don't think that's something we're going to try to tackle for quite a long time.
I will say you did it seamlessly. I could not tell where one began and one ended. Like
Yeah.
it was so seamless for the first time as well.
Yeah,
Thank you.
agreed. Absolutely. And so that's a standalone, right? But you have this incredible mix of, these long-running series that are so rich, and then these standalone books as well. What's the difference between the two in terms of your process? Do you always know that a book is going to turn into a series from the beginning, or does it evolve, depending on how it's received? And what's your preference? Do you have a preference?
My preference is definitely writing a series. I love having, additional books to continue to build out the world or expand on it or dive deeper into stories. You can start a little thread in the first book and move it along and expand on it in the next one. Typically, I do know whether something is going to be a standalone or a series. The only exception for that is the romantic series, which is 100 Lifetimes of Us, 700 Suns of Summer, and 500 First Editions. Initially, it was just 100 Lifetimes of Us, and it was going to be a standalone and stay that way. And then I really fell in love with the side characters of Wander and Willow and just could not let them get away with not having their own books. And for that series specifically, it is so inspired by the book community. We all have these really wonderful long distance relationships that are so genuine and deep and real, even though you rarely get to see each other in person. And so that's what that series is built around, is these long distance friendships and just how genuine they are.
Wonderful.
Speaking of that series, it was loosely based, or not based, but inspired by M3, M cubed. I can't do maths. But it was loosely inspired by the three of you. What kind of was the spark of that inspiration?
When I was writing 100 Lifetimes of Us, that one, it's in the dedication where it's like, is this play about us? Um, and it was just heavily inspired by the book community. And at the time, I was like, I think I had asked my two really good author friends, Mandy Muse and Michaela Christie, do you want to name a character? She needs best friends. Like, we all have M names. So these are going to be the WWs. So they came up with their character names. Um, and that's kind of where it snowballed is, um, it was just an honor to write characters inspired by them and just write all the things that I love about them and all of their strengths and all the ways that they shine. And yeah, it was my love letter to this community, to them. And I think that they're some of my favorite books.
Gorgeous. It's so interesting you talk of community because, writing can be such a solitary thing. And, Book Talk and the writing community, has really given us a new sense of community. And I know that's something Sam talks about so much, the importance of that connection and that overlap. Can you tell us a bit more about what it means for you and where you found your community?
Absolutely. I think so much of it is built through Book Talk, through Bookstagram. Um, my friend Michaela Christie, she's an author now, but she started as a book talker, and our whole friendship started because I sent her one of my books that was on her wish list.
Wow.
And we joke now, and I'm like, oh, it's the best $15 I ever spent because I have an incredible friend, and I got her for a steal. But um, she's, just an incredible person and so supportive and caring. And it's so interesting and fun. We all come here because we love books and we're sharing, our hobby, our passion, our career, but then it goes beyond that and you're like, oh, you have kids too, or you've got pets too, and you learn so much more about people. And I think it's fantastic because we're getting to connect with people outside of our little, niche environment wherever you are. I'm in such a small town, um, and so to be able to connect with different people who were raised differently than you, who have different worldviews, who you can learn from and, discuss things, it's going to make you a better person because you get to experience different cultures. And it's, I think, like, this is how the world should connect.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And
Couldn't
what a
agree
better
more.
place it would be. Yeah.
How do you choose who gets a book? And I know this might be a touchy subject because there are so many of us that have been craving and begging for years. But how do you choose? Like, is there a strategic behind it? Is there just this character speaking to me? Yeah, how do you choose?
Sometimes it's, I've got a list and I know, everyone from the poker club is going to get a book, but then I was writing through, I think I was writing in spades, and I fell in love with the idea of Maddie and Luca and Hannah Jane and Isaac's kids falling in love and getting married someday. And so now they're going to get a book, and we just revealed that on Monday, which was so fun. Um, and so sometimes it's, this long term mastermind plan. And then sometimes there's just a standout side character that everybody loves and they're just begging for mercilessly, no matter how many times I say no. Um, but then sometimes it's, I fall in love with the idea of a person from a certain background or life experience and what it looks like for them to love somebody. And so Um, I think it's different for every book. I would like to think that it is this like grand mastermind. You know, I've got the murder board going on with all the strings and things connecting pictures. It's not quite as sophisticated as that, but sometimes there is a long-term plan.
That's gorgeous. And you've mentioned romance quite a few times, and I wonder, like, what love and romance means to you and why you've chosen to kind of make that your most central kind of genre and one of the most central themes across your work in different iterations, you know.
I have so much love for the romance genre. Um, I think that, you know, what you put into the world is inevitably what you get out of it. And so I would rather spend my time putting hope and light and joy and fun and humor into the world and, you know, giving people that little bit of escapism, um, rather than adding to the chaos that constantly swirls around. Um, I think that romance as a genre where, you know, we have two pillars of it has to have a central love story and it has to have a happily ever after. Those two things allow us to safely explore so many different topics of grief, of depression, addiction, you know, things that are really heavy and scary to talk about, but you know that it's going to be okay because you're going to get that happily ever after. Um, and so it's this safe playground where you can do so many different things, you know, as long as you use your imagination, but you know exactly how it's going to turn out. And people hold on to that. And so I love how much readers trust me to tackle these really difficult topics or uncomfortable topics because they know it's going to be treated safely. And that is not a trust that I take for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned humour, and that is something that I've noticed throughout all your books. There's always this trademark Maggie Gates humour. Um, how do you manage to inject that into the harder stories? Because there is always light and shade in your books. It's never just dark, dark, dark. It's never just laugh, laugh, laugh. It's always with the light comes the shade, like reality, I guess. How do you go about that?
I think that comes from the fact that I have a really weird sense of humor and I will find something funny in almost anything, which can be really inappropriate at times. But I think that, you know, we can hold multitudes, and that's something that I've been writing a lot about this year. Um, you can hold multitudes, you can hold grief and still see the beautiful, funny bits of life at the same time. And sometimes you need that to get through the other. And so I think that, you know, adding humor into things that are dark or uncomfortable or scary is real. That's how we cope. And I think it brings a lot of people comfort and sometimes validation. Like it's okay to still find those pockets of joy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You really do balance that so well. And another thing that I think you get really right is just the psychological kind of reality of the characters. You know, again, my reference point is Pretty Things on Shelves, but um, you know, there was a lot in there. You know, Sam and I have talked about being the eldest siblings and, you know, the responsibility that comes with that and the particular experience that comes with that, you know, and how that complicates, you know, for example, experiences of marriage, of, you know, wanting to become a parent. And then, of course, the fact that, you know, the characters have grown up in a very specific community. And, you know, the psychological and emotional knock-on effects of that within a romance story with, you know, light as well and humor was really accurate, I thought. And I think that's why so many people feel seen by your work. Can you talk about that element a little bit more?
Yeah, I think that each book brings its own challenges where um, sometimes it's difficult to approach topics. And going back to Pretty Things, that was, I want to say, very loosely based on the way that me and my husband were both raised, um, which is why we decided to co write it because we both had two very different perspectives on how these worldviews affected women and how they affected men. Um, and so when we, you know, sort of tackled that, we wanted to make sure that we kind of talked about all these different facets of what if you're the eldest daughter? What if you're the woman in this situation? What if you're the man in this situation? Um, and so I think, trying to look at it from every angle and um, maybe not approach, plotting and outlining and the planning of a book from the perspective of how does this work in the book, but thinking about the people. How does this affect human beings? And I look at that in the way that I approach sensitivity reading. Typically, I love working with sensitivity readers. And if I have the opportunity to work with them prior to writing the book, I do. And what I love doing is simply sitting down and having a conversation going, tell me about your life. Tell me about your day to day. Tell me about your relationships. Like, I want to connect with you as a person before I kind of condense it down into a character. Um, and I think that, taking all of that is how I want to approach writing, because I want to approach it as these are human beings, not just fictional characters, because we're talking about real people, we're talking about real situations. Um, and so I think approaching it first as what is it like for people in these situations, and talking to people in them if I can really helps bring that reality of what they go through and the long-term effects of that. And hopefully, it is condensed down into a character and readers pick up the book and consume it. They feel seen and it feels like they're looking at a mirror.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think because you do take so much care with that part of things, the characters just feel so real. I think that's largely a part of why they are so relatable, because they are real people at the heart of it, even if it's not a real person.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
agree. Yeah.
But I know I've spoke a lot about series, we both have, and how you are the queen of series and interconnected standalones. But I can't even comprehend how much planning it must take to do that. So how do you track continuity? Because it's something so prevalent in the Beaufort Poker Club. It's all the way down. It's 6 books. There's a lot to keep track of. But then also your characters pop up in other worlds. So how do you keep track of all that?
The poker club, I don't know how I did it, honestly. And I wish I did, because I would love to write another series like it. And I'm absolutely terrified too, because I was writing in such a vacuum where nobody was reading my books at the time. And it was like me and my husband and like Sam and 3 other people. Um, and it was wonderful because I got to just play with these characters, um, and now I'm like, oh my gosh, how did I do running storylines across 6 books and they all, crisscross? And I've got these timelines saved from when I was writing it. And it's like the murder board where there's strings going, this, that, and the other. And yeah, I must have blacked out when I was writing that series, because I don't know how it worked. Um, and so I would love to do it again, but it honestly terrifies me. And I think it's one of those things where it's uh, ignorance is bliss. And now I know much more about writing than I did. And as I look at those books up on my shelf, I'm like, I was so, I was so ignorant of, craft or, tropes or the right way to do things. But I think, that worked at the
Mm,
time, just because there was no pressure. I wasn't trying to write to market. I wasn't trying to, uh, you know, hit these hooks that, work on TikTok or work on Instagram. And it was just about the characters. Um, and honestly, if I could go back to that style of writing sometimes, I absolutely would. Like, I love everything I've learned over the last 20 books, but there was something really beautiful about that time. And just being in this vacuum of writing those characters. Um, with the other series, when I have those character cameos, kind of popping in, I think that's really easy for me because they're all, like we talked about before, all these characters are my friends. And I know them just as well as I know my friends. I know their kids' names and I know their birthdays and all these things. And so it's really fun where it's like, oh, if I need a billionaire, I've got Isaac. And if I need a football player, I've got Tatum. And if I need a podcaster, I've got Blair. And so Apparently, they're the only billionaires, football players, and podcasters in the whole world because we never have anybody else. But
No.
um, it's so fun to kind of see where I can sneak people in, and I get so much joy out of it because I'm over here with my laptop going, ha ha ha, they're gonna laugh at that, and I'm not sure if anybody finds it funny except for me, but I have a blast doing it.
It
I love
sounds,
it.
yeah, it sounds like so much fun, and that freedom that you describe, when there's no expectations and you're still experimenting, and it just sounds like it was so successful, which is so interesting, isn't it? And all those Easter eggs. I know Sam has called you the Queen of Easter eggs, and so
Taylor
it sounds
Swift of book writing.
the Taylor Swift of book writing. I love that. Um, like, could you tell us a bit more about your writing process? Like, maybe even just your day to day, like what it entails, and yeah, how the process goes.
Um, if I had to boil like a book down to a process, it's 8 weeks for a first draft, um, 2 weeks to kind of fluff it out and then send it off to the editor. I get it back and usually spend a month on developmental edits. And it kind of goes back and forth for a couple weeks. If I'm doing something on the indie side, I can usually turn a book around in 3 months. If I'm doing something with one of my publishing houses, then it's a much longer process with them. um, on a day-to-day basis, I'm a mom, so, school drop off, domestic life, things around the house, and then I'll sit down usually around 10 a.m. and kind of bust out some work until about 5 p.m. and then, do dinner, family time, and then I'll usually sneak in a little writing session at night. I prefer writing at night. My best writing hours are between like 11 p.m. and 2 a.m.
Wow.
I love when the world is quiet. Nobody needs anything. No emails are coming in. And so that's when I can really like lock in and get a lot of work done.
Mm, very interesting. And when you say, I mean, 8 weeks is an amazing turnaround time for a first draft. How much prep do you do before you actually start writing that draft?
There is a lot of prep. I am definitely a plotter. And so I go into it with a 3 act structure summary with a chapter by chapter outline. And so that's what I write from. So every day I just open up my notebook and I know exactly what I'm writing for the day. Um, I've written a lot of books without an outline. I've pantsed them, as we like to say, but these days, if I don't have an outline, I'm completely lost. And so I love knowing, using my outlines like a roadmap, where I'm more than happy to deviate and take a little detour and explore something else. But I know that I have that to kind of help us get back on track so that we can get to that happily ever after.
Gorgeous.
Now, you was traditionally published. The Griffiths Brother series was picked up, was it Berkeley and then Hodder in the UK?
Yes.
What has
Mhm.
been the biggest transition since being kind of a hybrid author? Because I know two of the ones you've got coming out in this year are still indie, aren't they?
Yes, I love indie publishing so much. I love the community. Um, and so I don't really foresee myself ever leaving that. Who knows? That might change tomorrow. There's a number. I can be bought. But um, if I get the email and they're like, we'll pay you a lot of money, I'm like, okay, great. Um, but it's it's very similar in some ways, and then it's very different in others. Potter and Stockton and Berkeley have just been absolutely wonderful to work with. Um, it was a whirlwind when the Griffith brothers got picked up. I called it like publisher speed dating because you get on all these video calls with different publishers and they're giving you the compliment sandwiches of what they love about the book, what they want to change about the book, what they love about the book. And so after all of those like speed dating calls, I felt really confident moving forward with Berkeley and with Hodder, and the editors there, the whole team, the marketing department, everyone has just been so supportive, and encouraging and really hyped it up. And it's been so fun to see those books go to new audiences. And now I'm working on some new books for them. With the Griffith brothers, there weren't a whole lot of changes because it had already come out in the indie market. But with the new books, it's been a really fun process to um, have other voices involved. And I think some authors are really scared of that. And honestly, I was really scared of that too. But they have just been so wonderful. And it's been really fun to work with new people and to bring these new books to life. And the first one comes out this September, and Hodder will be bringing it to the UK as well. And so I'm really, really excited for readers to dive into the new series.
How exciting! Congratulations.
Thanks.
I was over the moon when I saw that announcement. I was like, oh, finally, it couldn't have happened to a nicer person.
And
So
it's been absolutely crazy to see them in Waterstones and see them in the works and all of these different places. It's been so fun.
Honestly, I was like, I know her. I was walking in Waterstones like, oh my God.
how amazing. And like you've spoken about your characters, you've spoken about your process, you've spoken about the community around you, and now moving, the community around indie publishing and also traditional publishing. And I wonder now, like, if you can talk a bit about your readers, and how your work has been received and what that journey has been. You mentioned that originally, you felt like it was just a handful of people, Sam being one of them, that was your readership, but obviously that has evolved hugely over 20 books and counting. So if we flip it around, what does that mean to you, and what has been the reception in terms of your readership, and how has that evolved?
It's so crazy to look back and think about how far we've come. Um, I joke about it being Sam and three other people, but for quite a long time, that it's really what it felt like. And um, I, it was such a small, intimate group of readers that were so loud about my books and so passionate about them that that's what brought in everybody else. Like, I was doing no marketing. I didn't know how to use Instagram. I didn't get on TikTok until I was 4 books in. I did not know how to use TikTok. I still don't, but it was readers who somehow found them, nothing, not because of anything I did. And they were like, no, 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 you got to read this. And they would push them into the hands of their friends. And that is something that I will never take for granted. And it has um, exploded in ways that I still can't wrap my head around sometimes. Where I did a pop up event at a larger city about an hour away, and I was like, oh, nobody's going to show up. Like, I didn't really tell a lot of people I was going to be there, but people were like, oh my gosh, I've read your books. I'm like, wait, you know who I am? Or like, this is weird. Um, I went into my local Books a Million, and I was giving them like my rewards number so that I could, get 10% off my purchase. And my name popped up, and she's like, oh my God, you wrote Death Storm. And it was the weirdest experience of my life. Um, but so incredible. But to me, like, it's still Sam and three other people who read my books. And so I do my best to stay connected with everybody and to, be as grateful as possible and show that gratitude, and um, try to make sure that everybody knows how grateful that I am to them, even though it's kind of exploding beyond what I can contain and like reach out to. Um, I think in my mind, it will always be this like small, loud, intimate group of readers. And I think that that's, at least for me, a healthy way to look at it, because I will always be so grateful and just floored every time I get a tag on Instagram, or anytime, somebody shoots me an email or, sends me a letter in the mail. It's mind blowing. And I'm so grateful for how generous readers are with their time, with their money. They could buy any other books and they're buying mine. That's weird. There's so many better books out there, but um, it's, I wake up every day and I just kind of shake my head like, what? How did we get here? Um, yeah, I could ramble for another hour about how much I love everybody, and it's really hard to put into words.
Amazing.
That's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
No matter how many people are here, like there could be 300 million, and it'll always be Salmon 300 million because
Yes.
I will never stop reading.
Absolutely. Yeah, and one more now.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you did mention that you've got one coming out later this year, and that's Blue Jeans Summer.
Yes.
So what can we expect from Hayes and Catherine's story?
So Hayes and Catherine's story is a marriage of convenience, and that is my very first one ever. I was so excited to write this book because I've wanted to dive into it for a really long time. Um, the Wilder Estate is set in Honey Hollow, Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, and so it's very picturesque. It's got these big sweeping mountains, and um, it is just this beautiful equine estate where they train racehorses. And so Hayes inherits this giant mansion and this estate, and he's got somebody else in his family who's trying to steal it away from him. So he has to get a wife in order to fulfill all of the requirements to keep the Wilder estate. And so in comes Catherine at his grandfather's funeral, swearing. And it's the most adorable meet cute. They make such a perfect pair. I don't want to say it's grumpy sunshine because he's not really grumpy, but it's like shy and stoic sunshine. And so she just brings out the absolute best in him, and he really gives her a place to land and just loves her in ways that she really needs. And there's a whole new cast of characters. There's big found family vibes there. And so you'll get to meet the whole estate crew and fall in love with them as well.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Exciting. Me
To
too.
me, the new series is like Poker Club meets the Griffith brothers. So you have that sort of like mishmash of people coming from all different backgrounds, and being friends and working together, but it's also cowboys and it's, romantic and sexy and all of these things.
I've
I think
never felt more like a nerd than I do now.
I think Sam's gonna explode in a
I think
minute.
I might. I think I might. It's
She
so
can't
funny
wait.
you mentioned grumpy sunshine though, because I have a sunshine scale when in my head, not like literally, but like every time I read a grumpy sunshine, I'm measuring the sunshineness on miles.
He's the
Mm.
ultimate
Miles,
sunshine.
miles in 100 Lifetimes of Us is literally the sunshiniest sunshine to ever sunshine.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
That's so gorgeous, and we're so excited. We can't wait. And the way you've described it is just
Mhm.
incredible. Um, we've talked about your characters a lot, but setting for you seems to be so important and so integral, and almost sometimes a character in itself. And we've got in the notes, people thanking you for representing certain parts of the states and, your local area in such positive ways. Can you tell us a bit about how important setting is and the role it plays in your work?
Absolutely. I love that you say sometimes it's a character in itself because when I think about the Poker Club series, when I think about Falls Creek, those two definitely, the town is a character in itself. Um, and I think it really adds a lot to the color and the vibrancy of the series. Um, I think that with a lot of my books, they're set in North Carolina because I'm in North Carolina. Um, and I think sometimes this is my little tangent mark or my soapbox that I go on with settings is um, sometimes I cringe a little bit when I read books set in the South because it seems like it's a caricature or a
Mhm.
stereotype.
Yeah.
Um, and I really want to show the beauty and the diversity of this area. Um, and how wonderful the people are, how fantastic, the geography is and how unique it is. I've got the beach an hour this way and I've got the mountains an hour this way. Um, and so I really want to celebrate that. And so it's always fun to kind of explore a different area of the state and, write the poker club out at the beach or write Falls Creek in the Piedmont area or go out to the mountains. And um, I think that there's so much diversity with culture, with geography and lifestyle, not just within, North Carolina as a state, but within the US, everything is so, so different depending on where you go. And so I think it's really fun. We have endless opportunities to explore it and celebrate it.
Gorgeous.
And you do it so well because everywhere that I've read in your books, I want to go. But that leads me on to actually a perfect question that I have. Where would you like to live if you had to live in one of your books?
Oh,
Ooh.
that is a good question. I think I would like to live on the Griffith Ranch. I think Texas has the best food. I am a food eater. I love food so much. And I also like warm weather. So it is super cold where I am right now. It has been below freezing for 2 weeks and I'm tired of it. So I would like some warm weather, please.
Very
We'll see if
true.
that can be arranged.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. We've got a lot of viewers who are avid readers, but also aspiring authors, and hearing your process and hearing your journey as well is just so, so valuable. Um, what advice would you give to people who want to become authors and who are beginning that journey?
Don't worry about what you don't know. Open up a document and just start writing. And I think the wonderful thing about the author community is that people are so giving with their time. So if you don't know something, there is somebody who's willing to teach you. There's somebody who's willing to point you to somebody who can teach you. There are great resources out there, but at the end of the day, you have to be the one to sit down and start writing the words. I think sometimes we get a lot really scared about the process of writing because it seems like this big daunting thing of how do I write a book that's so many words? I don't know how to write a book. I don't know how to tell a story. Just start writing. You'll figure it out. Um, and I always have to tell myself when I'm struggling, like you can edit a bad page, you can't edit a blank page. And so, just get the words out and it's okay if it's terrible. No one is good on their first try, but just get the first one out, keep trying, keep learning, ask really good questions. Um, and people in the community are going to come beside you and hype you up and help you and offer their resources, and it's just a wonderful place to be, so don't be scared to join in.
I
Lovely.
love that. That sums up the community perfectly.
Absolutely.
I just want to touch on your research process because one of my favourite books, which I know you know is like holy grail to me, What Heals Us, Austin and Caroline, that touches on autoimmune lupus, and my mum has lupus. So reading that felt so representative, not just from like Caroline's perspective, but everyone else around her. How did you go about researching that? Because you got everything, even down to the bad days, the good days, so well.
I think a lot of her story specifically came from personal experience of being the loved one of somebody who has a lot of medical complexities. And so with her medical condition specifically, it's in the dedication. My mom was the kidney donor for my dad. And so I've seen both sides of it, of the person receiving the kidney and the person being the donor as well, which is a really unique place to land. Um, but also the complexities of relationship dynamics. When somebody's having a really bad day, they're frustrated about it just as much as you're frustrated. And I think writing that book from Caroline's perspective, whereas I've been in the loved one seat, gave me a lot more empathy for my own family of realizing, oh, that's where your head's at. Or, this is, why you're frustrated. Or, you're really putting yourself in their shoes. And it was a really interesting experience, like, switching roles kind of, and, learning to see it from their side so that I could write it authentically. And when it was all said and done, I kind of took a step back and I was like, okay, like I learned something here that I needed to know as a loved one. And so it's been so touching to talk to so many people within the transplant community, within the autoimmune community, and see how they have found themselves in that book specifically. That's just been really wonderful.
Yeah. Like I also did the same thing. I obviously read it from Caroline's perspective and just thought, oh, that was what you were feeling, or that's how you feel day to day. And it really opened my eyes because obviously we have blinders on, we have protective barriers up to not think too much about things. But yeah, it really opened my eyes and it made me a lot more empathetic as well.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
so glad. And I think something that I've tried to focus on as a reader this year when I'm reading books is to decentralize myself from the
Mm.
story. I'm not the main character. This book isn't about me. Um, and I think the more that we do that, the more that we realize we're the side character in this story and that we need to watch and learn from somebody else's experience without trying to make it about us, the more we're going to learn.
Wow. Imagine if the whole world did that.
Imagine.
We would be in a very different place right now.
I think so.
Yeah, great advice for reading and great advice for life, I think.
Yeah.
And you've just touched and mentioned, the fact that you obviously are also an avid reader, and I'm wondering who your favorites are and who inspires you and who you were reading while you were also, honing your craft and your voice as a writer.
I think in a lot of my early years writing, I was reading Lucy Score, Claire Kingsley, Catherine Nolan, Jessica Prince, all of these incredible small town writers, where I think of Lucy Score as the queen of world building. She writes the most vivid backdrops for her characters and settings, and it's so unique. She writes the best pets, which is something that I've never been able to figure out because I always forget that the pet exists, and then I'm like, at the end of the book, I'm like, oh, where's the cat? I don't know. He's fine, but she just writes the most vivid worlds, and when I read her series, it is the most immersive experience. Now I am thoroughly in a romantic suspense era of the last 2 years, and so I have been diving heavily into Catherine Cowles. Sam was the one who initially got me into her,
You are
and so
so
now I've
welcome,
got all of
Maggie.
these. All of these are Catherine Cowles books, and um, that's my current read, and she is just absolutely phenomenal. Um, and I just have a soft spot for small town romance, and so I feel like I will always find myself going back to it. But recently, I've gotten really into Nikki Payne. She is absolutely incredible. If you haven't read her, you definitely need to grab Princess and the PI. This is just going to turn into me yapping about all the books that I like.
Go
But it's
for
called
it.
Princess and the PI, and it's an incredible Black romance. Her writing style is just so snappy and entertaining and quick witted, and so you're gonna laugh and cry, and it's gonna
Mhm.
get steamy, and hit you in the field. And she just packs a punch in her books. They are incredible.
Gorgeous. Oh my
I'll check
gosh.
it out.
I'm sold. Definitely.
But jumping back to the pet thing, we had Quilliam. We had
We
Quilliam.
do.
Will we ever get a Quilliam and Ophelia book, Maggie?
I fully intended to write Ophelia's book after I finished Nothing Less Than Everything. Because in my head, I was like, oh, this is going to be a series of these, like, the core four football players of this pro football team. And then I finished writing Nothing Less Than Everything, and I realized how much I absolutely hated writing football romance. Um, it was not a pleasant experience. I loved the characters, I loved their interactions. I hated throwing sports into the mix. And so Ophelia was always supposed to end up with Seth, who was one of the football players. And I just can't bring myself to write another sports romance and suffer through that for another 4 months. Um, and it's so funny because I'm a football fan, but writing it is just not my cup of tea.
Very interesting. So interesting. We live and we learn, don't we?
Me
No more
too.
sports romances.
No,
Um,
I did one, and that was
More
plenty
than
for
enough.
me.
Fair,
Yes.
fair, fair. Now, Maggie, we tried something new last week, me and Sam, which was like a quick fire round, and we just had so much fun with it, and we kind of decided we might make it like a regular thing.
Okay.
So we were wondering if you were up for a bit of a quick fire round, this or that type thing.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Sam, what do you reckon? Do you want to go first?
Let's go. Hardback or paperback?
Paperback.
Oh, nice.
Even better if it's
Agree.
mass market, the little ones.
Oh, hold on.
Agreed. Although
Yeah.
I do love the big ones of Poker Face.
Oh, yeah. Those are like extra big ones.
Yeah, I do love
They're
those.
chunky.
Audiobook or physical book?
Audiobook.
Oh.
Ebook or physical book?
Ebook.
Loan a book or buy a book?
Buy a book. I don't loan anybody books.
Fair.
One book on the go or multiple?
Multiple.
Yeah, same. One POV or multiple POVs?
Multiple POVs.
Mm,
Agreed. First person or third person?
First person.
right. I think we know the answer to this one. Romance or fantasy?
Romance.
Short book or chunky book?
Chunky book.
Nice. Morning reader or night reader?
Night reader.
Yeah.
Fast reader or slow reader?
I used to be fast, but now I'm slow.
Mm. Read in bed or read on the sofa?
Read in bed.
Mm.
Long chapters or short chapters?
Long chapters.
Oof.
Interesting. Read with music or read without music?
Without music.
Reread or read only once?
Reread.
Interesting. Series or standalone?
Series.
Fiction or non-fiction?
Fiction.
Crack the spine or keep it pristine?
Crack it hard.
That is brutal. Annotate or keep clean?
I love annotated books. I don't have the patience to do it though.
That's fair.
Yeah. Bookmark or dog ear?
Dog ear.
Look at Sam's face.
Maggie!
She's horrified.
Okay, I'll make it even worse though. I don't dog ear the corner. I fold the page in half.
Wow.
Moving on. I can feel my heart going pitter-patter.
That's a
Then
book crime, I think.
first edition or special edition?
Special edition.
Biography or self-help?
Biography.
Mm.
TBR or mood reader?
Mood reader. 100%.
Adaptations or the book is always better?
The book is always better.
Buddy read or read alone?
Read alone. I'm
Oh,
I always get off track with better reads.
yeah.
Same.
I think this is where our list is a bit different, Sam, but I'm going to carry on anyway. So, escapism or gritty realness?
Gritty realness.
Hmm.
Summer beach reading or reading cozy indoor? No. Summer beach reading or cozy indoor winter reading?
Cozy indoor winter reading.
Hmm. Prize winner or bestseller?
Bestseller.
Hmm.
Time jump or linear?
Linear.
Amazing. I think that's the last
That's the
one.
end.
I love that.
Yay! You got 100%, by the way.
You
Awesome.
got 99.9%.
It's the dog year.
It's
It's
the
the
dog
page ear. I can almost accept the dog ear from you, Maggie. Put the page ear.
Oh, Maggie, it has been such a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for joining us all the way over in the States in a
Thank you
very
for
different
having
time.
me.
Oh, it's been
Thank you
such
for
a
coming
pleasure.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And we're very, very excited about all these new releases that are coming very, very soon. So we're going to keep our eyes and ears out for that as well.
Thank
Not
you.
one, but three.
3.
Yes.
Amazing. How prolific. Thank you again and see you very soon.
Thank you.
See you.
Bye. Oh my goodness.
Isn't she
She's
so
just
lovely?
awesome. Like, what a great character, and also just so insightful. I'm always blown away when we speak to people that have literally written 20 books and counting.
I
That's
know.
cool. And she looks like 20.
Right?
One book for each of her life.
I know. She
Yeah.
started writing when she was 1.
Yeah. Amazing. Well,
But it
thank
just
you.
shows how fast the turnaround is, though, because 3 in a year. That is incredible.
I mean, it made me feel really, really shit because I was like, I managed 1 in 3 years, just about. But I'm so
One
impressed.
brilliant 1 in 3 years.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But yeah, it really is so inspiring. And I can totally understand why you are so obsessed with her and so into her writing. She is just such an interesting, exceptional person.
Cheers.
So thank you. Thank you. Now, next week, we have got a very, very special week coming up, don't we?
We
Sam, do
do.
you want to do the honours or shall
I
I?
think you should do the honours, Nina.
Oh, I'm going to cry.
Oh, God.
I mean, we've just been so look, I've got a horrible used tissue in my hand because I've been getting so emotional. I can't believe the caliber of people that have agreed to speak with us, and it just gets better and better. And you know, there's so much conversation between me and Sam going on behind the scenes about how many episodes should we do, and you know, should we do another series, etc., etc. And we've just been so incredibly honoured and lucky at the incredible people that have signed up to talk with us. So next week the one, the only, Balvinder Sopal will be joining us on a live to talk all things books and probably some insight into the most incredible year that she's had in her entire life. But she's such a prolific reader, and she's got her own little kind of online book club called Bells Reads Books, where she just shares her reading journey. And she's so supportive of writers and readers, and she's so well read as well, and been on such an interesting journey herself with her reading.
And shared the
So
most incredible book recommendations, can I say?
yes, 100%. Yeah, she really is very discerning, isn't she? She's brilliant. So we are so honoured and so excited to be speaking with her. That's actually going to be on Tuesday.
Yes, a
Uh,
day difference.
yes, exactly, because of course she's very, very busy and in demand and is spending a lot of time filming at the moment. So we're working around her schedule. So please, please join us for that. That's going to be super, super special. And we can't wait to speak to her and have you join us for that.
And that will be at 7:45, I believe.
Yeah, 7:45 or 8 o'clock. Let me double check. But yeah, we'll confirm the time. Please just, you know, check our socials. We'll let you know way in advance so that you can join us on time.
Yes. It will be on a graphic on putin.the.world.2.rights.
Sam is the queen of that. So it's all in very, very safe hands. Thank you, Sam. And thank you all for joining us this week. It's
Yes,
been another corker.
has. Thank you so much for coming back every week and commenting along and watching.
Yeah, we really appreciate each and every one of you.
We do.
Okay.
So, until next week.
Yeah, lots of love, everybody. Have a
Lots
good
of love.
one. Bye.
Bye.